Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on a Tuesday night. College football playoff ranking reaction is what we're going to do this evening and take a look at the top four that lacks Tennessee in it. They come in at number 5, outside looking in after their loss to Georgia. Pretty interesting result, and certainly we're going to talk through that tonight. We will get into who they missed out after and what we were surprised with the college football playoff. We'll do a gone viral video as we always do on a Tuesday night, and certainly a lot of college football discussion to be had. Before we get started, though, I need you guys to share this show on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. If you're hanging out with us on Twitter, please retweet the show. That's in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. If you are on Facebook Live, you can share now to public. That's in the bottom left. YouTube, Twitch, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done it. Like the video if you have, and we will be grateful to you that way as well. And as more of you come in, and we'll talk about the Vols and the college football playoff picture, we can go ahead and get this thing started. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time from the Superbook Sports Studios. I'm your host, Buck Rising, and I'm proud, as always, to be presented to you by Superbook Sports. That's where you go to wager this season and every season thereafter. Superbook Sports will always get you in on the action in their great, easy-to-use app. TrueMav Fitness, where you go for your fitness journey to get started today. Tuesdays and Thursdays are always the boot camp classes with an upper body focus, core, back, chest, arms. That is the kind of workout you can expect. The best kind of workout you can expect comes at TrueMavFitness.com. Two Rivers Ford 2023 model year Fords available right now at the dealership. You can custom order your next Ford from Two Rivers Ford and the Ashton Real Estate Group of Remax Advantage. Get the intel edge you need to succeed at GaryAshton.com. So we have the Final Four, the second iteration of the Final Four, and the rest of the rankings as a result. In order: number 1, Georgia; number 2, Ohio State; number 3, Michigan; and number 4, TCU. Tennessee is 5, Oregon is 6, LSU up from 10 to number 7 after beating Alabama. So they went with all 4 of the undefeateds in the CFP rankings and left Tennessee out after losing to the new number 1. This is kind of an interesting situation because I thought you could very easily make the case for Tennessee to be in the college football playoff, despite they'll still have an opportunity. They're at 5. It's not the end of the world, but this obviously does make it a little more difficult because now you could win out, and in theory, they would ride with the undefeateds if all 4 remain undefeated throughout the regular season stretch. It is a pretty interesting explanation that you'll hear a little bit from later on as we go. You'll hear specifically from Josh Heupel after they lost to Georgia, but I want to start with your Two Rivers Ford take here tonight. On Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, what percentage chance do you give the Vols to make the college football playoff now that they have come in at number 5? Because it's their only loss. It's their first loss. It took quite a while for them to get here, but it's a pretty difficult situation now moving forward. Now, Derek R. correctly brings up that Michigan and Ohio State will play this weekend, so somebody will come out of this game with a loss on their record. So if Tennessee is to win out, theoretically they should be able to pass the loser, which is the kind of way that we should be looking at this. So what percentage chance do you give the Vols to make the CFP? Give me your answer on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. We'll discuss at length right after I remind you that your Two Rivers Ford take is, as always, made possible by Two Rivers Ford. Two Rivers Ford is where you go for the best car buying experience possible, and now it's easy for you to get in on the car buying experience because their dealership is flush with 2023 model year Fords. You can talk to one of their non-commissioned salespeople. You can shop online the way that I did. You can go out to the dealership and test drive all of their great offerings for yourself. Two Rivers Ford always makes the process fast, easy, and fun. So custom order your next Ford from Two Rivers Ford. So, what percentage chance for them to make it? Now, theoretically, they should be able to win out. Tennessee's remaining schedule, their last home game is this Saturday against Missouri, who is not a good football team right now, 4-5 on the season. Their last two games are on the road at South Carolina, who's not a very good team right now either, at 6-3, and at Vanderbilt, who has yet to get a conference win and is currently 3-6 overall. These three games are not ones that should give the Vols much trouble. It will be curious to see how they rebound coming off their first loss of the season. I would give them I would say a 99% chance to make the college football playoff because, as we mentioned, Ohio State and Michigan, somebody is going to end up with a loss. Whomever ends up with that loss is still not going to have as good a resume as Tennessee, who will also have theoretically only one loss at that time. So to hear Josh Heupel talk about this, the way that Tennessee lost and in the aftermath of the Georgia game, you kind of understand the thing that they were up against.
You at least take a few minutes to kind of step back and say, we're the number one team in the country. This is pretty cool.
Did not move. I just been game planning and, for us, moved right back into it as soon as I was done with the show. I'm absolutely proud of what we've done up until this point, from the time we've gotten here until now. There's a lot of things that we continue to need to get better at, but the reality is that's the first show, first rankings. Everybody remembers what you do in November. The only one that matters is the last one. The reason we've gotten to the point where this is a big football game is because we've handled things the right way, coaches and players alike, and preparation and practice and understanding, the type of football team. This is a really good football team, and they've been winning for a while, and great opportunity for us.
So that's Josh Heupel prior to playing Georgia. And you understand the kind of opportunity that may be ahead of them. They could well see Georgia again in the college football playoff, provided that they continue to do their job. And yes, Georgia did beat them soundly, but they did bring it within 14 points at the end, even if, you look at that and say, well, garbage time, does it really matter? I do think optically it matters to have, a two-score loss as opposed to being, losing by 21 or trailing by 21 the way that they were early on in that game. And they held Georgia down. Obviously, the game plan was different in the second half for Georgia. They were controlling the ball far more. They were not in as big a hurry to score. It really changed their approach because they just wanted to grind this thing down in quarters 3 and 4. Tennessee, it limited their possessions, limited their opportunities to get back in it, but still did well to keep them to 6 points in the second half and pull it within 2 scores to continue to try and keep a hold a little bit of that resume that they have. The rematch is entirely possible. And like I said, if Michigan loses, if Ohio State loses, Tennessee will have the better resume than them. Theoretically, it should be a no-brainer to have them leapfrog back into the Final Four. A to Z Sports Prime Time from the Superbook Sports Studios. What percentage chance do you give Tennessee to get back in to the college football playoff picture? 100% for Scar. Michael Westbury agrees. TCU loses to Texas. Michigan beats Ohio State. Georgia at number 1. Michigan at 2. 3 is a toss. 3 and 4 is a toss-up at this point. Tennessee has the resume, says Chris Harp. LSU helping prove it. Yeah, man. That LSU win looks so big, so much better a couple of weeks, really basically after they lost to Tennessee. They've been a I don't want to say they've been a substantially different team, but they have been a team that executes on a higher level, a team that was not making the kind of gaffes and mistakes that they were early on offense and certainly against Tennessee special teams was a problem for them. I think that is one of the best things that you have going on the resume beyond, the obvious, which is Alabama, because even if Alabama does have 2 losses and is already out of the picture this season, you have to look at that, and the committee will look at that as a quality win, a signature win, given the time that they did win that game. So I think that that's absolutely something that will continue on at this point, and we can start to talk about which of the 2 college football playoff bowl games Tennessee will have the best shot at. We are in the middle of talking about the college football playoff rankings, and we'll get into surprises here in just a second, right after I tell you that True Math Fitness is your place to go to get your fitness journey started today, tomorrow, anytime this week. True Math Fitness gives you the opportunity to work out, to try their classes your first time free as a Middle Tennessee resident. They have boot camp style group classes. They have personal training. They have an open gym if you are not interested in either of the 2 previous things. True Math Fitness is just there to help you meet your fitness goals and to get your fitness journey started. To get started is the hardest part, but True Math Fitness is going to make it fun and easy for you while challenging you the whole way through. TrueMathFitness.com to sign up for memberships or to get your first class free. So, I saw a question about CJ Stroud or Hendon Hooker as far as the Heisman goes, and it's hard to say that the Georgia game will be the reason that Hendon Hooker doesn't win the Heisman. Now, that may ultimately end up being true. But I do think that what happened around Hendon Hooker, if the Heisman voters are to truly take into account what happened against Georgia, it's difficult to penalize the quarterback for, 8 pre-snap penalties that they had in Athens that caused so many issues, that caused continued getting behind the sticks for Tennessee. The weather, obviously, factoring in the second half, difficult to have the kind of statistical production that Hendon Hooker and the Tennessee offense are capable of when the conditions were such. But listen, that's football, and that's part of the consideration. Now, I think that CJ Stroud ultimately will end up beating out Hendon Hooker for the Heisman Trophy, but I do think it's almost as important. Obviously, for him to win it would be huge, but I do think it's equally as important for him to be in the conversation still. And he's obviously still going to be one of the top 3 people discussed for the Heisman Trophy, provided that he continued to win out, and it is fair to expect that he might. So with all those things being said, to have Josh Heupel in New York, to have Hendon Hooker in New York, to have the power T displayed everywhere at the Heisman Trophy ceremony, that's great branding, it's great marketing, and it's a big deal to even be a part of that process. But I do think that the Georgia game, just that dip and understanding that the offense was the reason. I mean, not the offense was the reason that they struggled. The reason that they struggled is because Georgia defense is great. But I do think that the overall result will end up hurting him in the long run, which is a shame because he's had a spectacular season thus far. And they really did well to shut Hendon Hooker down. Georgia did, but I think that would happen to any quarterback at this point against that kind of defense. Georgia has 2 top 10 wins also, says Michael Merck. Do they have 2 top 10 wins? Oregon, I guess, is one. Who is the second? Well, Tennessee. Tennessee would be the second. The Oregon win looks much better now, given how well Oregon has performed down the stretch. And Tennessee, obviously the number 1 team in the country. They did their job. They handled them. I mean, they really kicked their ass. And it's entirely reasonable to understand why they did it. They did exactly what you're supposed to be able to do with Tennessee. Man up in coverage against them, be physical with them at the point of attack. That if you have the players to do it, which almost nobody does except for Georgia, that is a situation where it's just your best on their best, and Georgia's best is better than Tennessee's best, as we now very much know. Neutral field, Tennessee wins a rematch. Well, certainly to have that film will help, but I don't think that's any kind of a certainty right now. But yes, hard to believe, says Chris Harp, Oregon is a juggernaut. To Bo Nix's credit, like he got messed up by the Georgia defense the same way that, I mean, even worse than Hendon Hooker did. But since then, like Bo Nix is in the Heisman Trophy conversation. Should absolutely be. He's been great outside of the Georgia game, and the Georgia game will count for something. But still, that has been one of the more interesting revelations of this college football season. So let's talk about what surprised you in the CFP rankings. What is the most surprising thing about the new CFP rankings? We will talk about it together right after I remind you that the place that you go for the intel edge you need to succeed is the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. GaryAshton.com is where you go to get in on the action. They are the best in the business with the intel edge that will help you sell your home without any showings or staging, help you find your next one while the red-hot Nashville real estate market is still at the top, and help you win the buyer battle while cashing in on your home equity right now. Gary Ashton has the intel edge to help you succeed just the same way that they do for the Nashville Predators. For so many Middle Tennesseans, GaryAshton.com is the place for you. So, what is the most surprising thing about the new CFP rankings? In the comment section, let us know, and we will get into it. Chris Johnson says, as to why Alabama is still in the top 10. So here is the college football playoff rankings. Now that we have a couple of results in hand, right? Clemson lost, Alabama lost again. They are still over Clemson, number 9 right now, and this is the kind of respect that the committee obviously has for the SEC. Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, TCU, Tennessee, Oregon, LSU, USC, Alabama, and Clemson round out the top 10. There's a lot of – there's really just – you can't put Ole Miss over them yet. They will have a head-to-head opportunity, so you can make that determination moving forward. They do have one less loss, but Alabama, obviously, the committee recognizes that they do ultimately have the higher ceiling, even if they haven't been an overwhelmingly great team thus far. But I do think that TCU, as Knock Trop says on YouTube, TCU equals Cincinnati from last year. No place in the top 4. Well, that may be well and good, but just like Cincinnati, TCU has earned it. And I was still kind of surprised to see them in over Tennessee, despite them having no losses on the season.
Takeaway from these playoff rankings, we'll start with you.
Well, Matt said it earlier, TCU's not getting any respect right now, nor is the Big 12 for that matter. I mean, you've got an 8-0 undefeated TCU team that, I know we're always going to get in debates about, should it matter when the ranking was when they played or what the ranking is now. But still, TCU has more wins over top 25 opponents than Alabama does right now as far as the current rankings, or Michigan does right now. You want to dive a little deeper, they went through a 4-week gauntlet where they had to beat a ranked Oklahoma at the time, a ranked Kansas at the time, a ranked Oklahoma State at the time, and a ranked Kansas State at the time. No one else has had to go through 4 straight weeks. The trophy contender in Max Duggan. There's no way they should be sitting at number 7. This TCU team should be somewhere, probably where Clemson might be sitting at number 5 if we're looking at the resumes.
Yeah. In my opinion, TCU is the rightful number 4 team in college football right now. For every reason that you just listed, Brady, going through that gauntlet of teams they had to play that were ranked opponents in their mind when they played them. Yeah. So my question is, how do we not know that after TCU beat Oklahoma State, they didn't give the blueprint for Kansas State to then come in and do what they did? That's why it matters to me. I think the college football playoff rankings needs a little brand awareness about TCU. All right.
So TCU in at number 4. Surprise is not the right word, but I did think it was interesting to see them moving up. It's a validation for their undefeated season, which I think is the exact kind of thing that should be rewarded. I mean, you had the undefeated Horned Frogs last week behind Alabama, who had one loss. This is something that they needed multiple fourth quarter comebacks. The committee decided to remain undefeated. TCU did. They trailed Texas Tech headed into the fourth quarter this past weekend, and they needed another comeback to win. But the committee is acknowledging, hey, despite you needing those comebacks, you're still in it and making an impact that way has been something that the committee has been very, very focused in on. So I think that they are surprising to me, but I do think that the Alabama thing there is still in the top 10 does probably bother a few people, even though, that's just the kind of respect that Alabama and Nick Saban carry, even if they have 2 losses already on this season. All right, let's do a gone viral video and wrap things up for the primetime show. The question that we are going to ask you guys is this. Who was your favorite pro athlete growing up? Now, you can go all over the place, any sport that you choose. Just make sure it's professional. Who was your favorite pro athlete growing up? Let me know, because there was a cool video that was making the rounds today of a Ravens fan meeting Lamar Jackson for the first time, and it got me thinking about moments like that. So who was your favorite pro athlete growing up? We'll talk about that together right after I remind you that the place you go to get in on all the action is Superbook Sports. Not only do they make the primetime show possible, but they make your gambling dreams come true, because they'll match your first bet up to $1,000, win or lose. They've got great odds boosts and promotions, particularly on local teams. You download the app, you click the Tennessee tab, you'll get specific lines, odds boosts, and promotions for the Titans, Preds, Vols, Grizzlies, every Tennessee team that you desire. They accept wagers on every major sport, so get in on the action today. Go to superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem, call the Tennessee Red Line, 1-800-889-9789. So, looking at this video that came out today, I thought it was a really, really touching moment between Lamar Jackson and a fan. It got me thinking about, who your favorite pro athlete might have been growing up.
What's up, Landon? What's up? I got someone here to see you. What's up, bro? How you doing? How you doing, man? How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? Excited. What's up, bro? How you doing, Mom? How you doing, bro? How you doing? What's up, bro? You good? What's up? Nice to meet you. What's up, bro?
He had no clue. He had no clue.
How you doing, bro? You good? Yeah. Good, man. Pretty cool or what? I like the jersey too, dog. I like the tears, man. I like the tears.
So it's pretty cool, right? Like, those are the kind of moments that I think that make it a lot, that kind of remove all the other stuff that can complicate sports and fandom and all these things. And it's just a purely wholesome moment of a kid who is in shock to meet his favorite. I'm assuming that Lamar Jackson is his favorite professional athlete right now. My favorite professional athlete is a tough one, because there's so many different athletes that I've got the opportunity to cover and meet and talk to. But beyond that, my favorite professional athlete probably growing up was either Reggie Miller or Larry Bird, just because of Indiana, just because of basketball. I mean, neither of those guys went to Indiana. Actually, Larry Bird was on Indiana's campus for a hot second, hated Bobby Knight, and ended up going to Indiana State, which is one of my favorite Larry Bird stories of all time. But they're still obviously iconic players in basketball history. And obviously, Larry, having coached for the Pacers, still being very involved with the Pacers, and Reggie playing for the Pacers. Pretty cool to see. So it'd probably be one of those two. But man, it was, those are the kind of wholesome moments that I think everybody can appreciate, no matter who you're a fan of, and kind of reminds us how pure sports fandom can still sometimes be. That's going to do it for us tonight on the Primetime Show. Thank you guys for hanging out, as always. Radio show tomorrow. Mike Golick Jr. is going to be on with us in the 11 o'clock hour, and the Titans will be back on the practice field. We'll get you updates on Traylon Burks, Elijah Molden, Ryan Tannehill, and the rest of them. We'll do that from 10 to 1 on 104.5 The Zone. If I don't catch you there, I will see you tomorrow night at 8 p.m. on A to Z Sports Primetime.
All right, we haven't scored a point since I came in here. I am gone, guys.
What?
That's it?
We got a couple more questions.
Out.
No, that's it.
Peace out by the GM.